The 11th of June, 1899, Volume 2, The Light in Order to Comprehend Louisa. My sweet Jesus continues to make himself seen only very few times and almost always in silence. I felt my mind all confused and full of fear that I might lose my sole and only good, and about many other things, which it is not necessary to say here. Oh, what pain! While I was in this state, he made himself seen for just a little. He seemed to carry a light, and from that light many other little globes of light were coming out. Jesus told me, "Remove every fear from your heart. See, I have brought you this globe of light to place it between you and me, and among those who approach you. For those who approach you with an upright heart and to do good to you, these little globes of light that come out will penetrate into their minds, will descend into their hearts, will fill them with joy and with celestial graces, and they will comprehend with clarity that which I operate in you. Those, then, who will come with other intentions will experience the opposite and will be dazzled and confused by these little globes of light. So I remain more tranquil. May everything be for the glory of God." End of the reading. The 11th of June, 1922, Volume 14, The Natural Life Symbolises the Spiritual Life. I was thinking to myself, how is it that also the spiritual life undergoes so many changes? While one is convinced that this will be his life, then when he least expects it, he's flung somewhere else, dragging along who knows how many painful consequences, which make the heart bleed. One can say that because of the so many changes one undergoes, it is a continuous martyrdom. And my sweet Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "My daughter, indeed the spiritual life must be a continuous martyrdom, because it must be similar to the first and greatest martyr, myself. And if it were not so, it cannot truly be called spiritual life, but lava and shadow of it. Then it is necessary that it undergo various changes, this in order to make it reach the proper stature and to render it noble, beautiful, and perfect. If the human nature itself, which is less important, undergoes who knows how many changes in order to reach the proper stature, much more so for the spiritual, which is more important than natural life and superior to it. Even more, the natural life symbolizes the spiritual life. Observe a bit. How many changes does the natural life go through? It is conceived in the maternal womb, and there it remains for as long as 9 months in order to form the little body. And when it is formed, it is forced to come out. And if it wanted to remain inside, it would die because it would lack the space to grow, and so it would suffocate, jeopardizing its life and that of the mother. Now, if this conception were formed outside of the maternal womb, who would provide the blood and the heat to form the little body? Moreover, since the members are extremely tender, the air itself would kill it. How much care is needed with the little newborn? Heat, cold, and even being pressed to the maternal bosom can be deadly for him. And therefore swaddling clothes, cradle, milk, if one wanted to give him some other food, the little one would not know how to chew it, and so his life would be put in danger. But then the time also comes when he becomes capable of taking food. The swaddling clothes are removed, and he learns to take a few steps. Do you see? We are still at his infancy, and he has already gone through 3 changes. Now, what would one say if this little one, seeing himself placed on the ground so as to take the first step, in fear of being snatched from the arms of his mamma, screamed, cried, and refused to have any of it? One would feel sorry for him, because in the arms of his mamma, he would never become a man. Without motion, he would not become strong nor developed. Now let us come to the true spiritual life. It is conceived in my womb. My blood, my love, and my breath form it. Then I feed it at my breast. I swaddle it with my graces. Then I continue by making it walk with my truths. However, my design is not to form a child to play with, but a copy fully similar to myself. And this is why changes occur, for nothing other than to let it reach a mature age and give it all those privileges and qualities which true spiritual life contains. Otherwise, it would remain like a baby in swaddling clothes, who, instead of forming my honour and my glory, would form my sorrow and dishonour. But how many are those who remain only newborn, or at most swaddled? Very few are those who work together with me to become a copy of myself. End of the reading. The 11th of June, 1925, Volume 17, The Great Evil of Not Doing the Divine Will is Irreparable. How the Divine Will is the balance of the attributes of God. So should be the balance of man. I felt my poor mind immersed in the most holy will of God. Oh, how I wished I would not do even one breath, one heartbeat, one movement outside the supreme volition. It seemed to me that everything which is done outside of the will of God makes us lose new beauty, new grace and light, rendering us dissimilar from our Creator, while Jesus wants us to be like our Supreme Maker in everything. And in what easier way can we be like Him other than by receiving within us the continuous life of His most holy will? It brings us the reflections, the features of our Celestial Father. It maintains whole within us the purpose of creation. It surrounds us in such a way as to preserve us beautiful and holy, just as God created us. And it gives us that something ever new of beauty, of light, of love, never interrupted, which can be found only in God. Now, while my mind was wandering in the eternal will, my sweet Jesus, squeezing me to himself with sensible voice, told me, "My daughter, there is nothing which can equal the great evil of not doing my will. There is no good which can equal doing it. There is no virtue which can stand before it. The good which is lost by not doing my will is irreparable in itself, and only by returning again to it can one find remedy, and the goods which our will had established to give to the creature can be given back to her. In vain do creatures delude themselves in doing other works, virtues, sacrifices. If these are not a birth from my will, and if they are not made in order to fulfill it, they are not recognized by me. More so, since it is established that grace, aids, light, goods, and the just reward will be given to those who operate in order to fulfill my will. Moreover, my will is eternal. It has no beginning and will have no end. And so who can calculate an act done in my will, which has no beginning and no end? That which my will is, such it renders the act. On the other hand, the other virtues, the works and sacrifices, without my will have a beginning as well as an end. What great reward can things subject to perish ever receive? Furthermore, my will is the balance of my attributes. If my power did not have this holy will, it would turn into tyranny toward those who so much offend me, while by balancing my power, my will makes me pour graces there where I should pour fury and destruction. If it wasn't for my will, which gives it ever new life, my wisdom would not manifest so much art and mastery in our works. Our beauty would be faded and without attraction if it were not sustained by this eternal will. Mercy would turn into weakness if it were not balanced by my will, and so on with all the rest of our attributes. Now, our paternal goodness has so much love for the creatures that it has established the balance of man within our will. Since man had come from the supreme will, it was right that this will would become the life which would maintain the balance of all the works of man, giving him likeness to his Creator. So much dignity, majesty, order in acting were to be seen in him as to make him be recognized as a birth of his Maker. Therefore, also in acting, it can be seen whether there is the balance of my will or of the human will. And so this is the cause of so many works, maybe even good, in which balance, rule, order cannot be seen. The execution of my will is missing, and therefore instead of being admired, they are blamed, and instead of shedding light, they cast darkness. If everything which is good comes from my will, without it, those are apparent goods without life, and maybe even poisonous, which poison those who take part in them. End of the reading. There are no more readings today.